Welcome back to Economic Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. We are talking purchase power parity, the triple P. So, Mr. Daniel Steinman, why are you smiling?
Because I'm waiting for you to struggle over your own feet and say public-private partnership.
No, I won't do that. So purchase power parity is when you compare what you buy within your country or even within your town compared probably to when you go to another country, which is probably like Frankfurt, like Mr. Daniel Steinman used as an example. But sometimes is there also a purchase power parity within the country, say Windhoek compared to Karibib?
There certainly is, and I'd be reluctant to make a comparison between Windhoek and Karibib because we are on the same trade route. So except for the price of fuel, which is slightly higher in Windhoek than in Walfish Bay, which indicates a positive parity, everything is more or less the same price. If you're talking about slightly higher prices, it's usually because of transport in Swakopmund or Walfish Bay or so. You're talking about cents. It's not. It's not. You're not talking about factors of a magnitude. But if you compare Windhoek to Cape Town, it is still comparable. It's within the same range. But if you compare Windhoek to Frankfurt, it's two different planets. It's not on the same planet, And this is where purchase power parity becomes so important, because there is a concept that is described as a structured cost model or framework. You can use any terminology that you want, but the key word is structured, meaning that it is part of the whole architecture of how the business, the private sector, is put together in places like Europe, And what it means is if you're talking about wages or the cost of labor, for instance, in Europe, it is much, much higher in Germany than in Namibia, for instance. It's also the reason this structured cost of labor. It's one of the reasons why half of your BMW with its fancy German logo comes from China or Thailand or Korea, because the labor cost component in those countries is not structured. So it simply means that the economy in Europe is very rigid. You remember last week I explained that when I spoke about productivity, that Europe, or at least Germany, is almost 100% productive economy. It's one of the most productive economies in the world, but also that leaves very little margin for improvement. Namibia, where the economy is really up to maggots, you only need to improve the way that you operate the factory. In other words, you need to improve your productivity, and immediately your profitability goes up without any big additional investments. So what you see here is that although Namibia has an open economy, it is a relatively unstructured economy. And there comes a concept, it's another economics concept, and hit me over the head if it becomes too technical, price elasticity. And that means you were asking me, does the purchase power parity principle also work inside Namibia? And it certainly does. And I said, I don't want to compare prices Windhoek Karibib, but we can certainly make a comparison prices Windhoek Oshakati or Windhoek Rundu, or even more extreme, Windhoek Katima. And there you see that it's a very stark, noticeable negative parity. Life in Katima is invariably more expensive than in Windhoek if you go buy your stuff in the supermarket.
Okay.
If you live in a traditional house and you catch fish in the Zambezi and you plant your own mahangu, obviously then you are outside the mainstream economy. And purchase power parity will not apply to you. But the moment you enter that supermarket in Katima Mulilo, it does. So you need more of the same Namibia dollar in Katima to get the same amount of stuff that you would get in Windhoek.
Okay.
But it is not nearly, we squeal about it and we complain. Life in the regions is more expensive.
Yeah.
And if you live in a small, godforsaken, one-horse town, it's even more expensive because there's no economies of scale. There's not a big market. And because you have to put everything on the back of a truck and pay for the diesel to get it there. So you have to be careful how you make these comparisons. But they are all in the same ballpark.
Okay.
We complain about Katima being expensive. It's not nearly as expensive as Europe. And this is where purchase power parity becomes very important, in the sense that it gives African economies, including us in Namibia, a certain advantage. That whole thing that, because we are so small, we've got much more room to maneuver. We can actually, we can stretch our Namibia dollar. If you are in Germany, or in the whole of Europe, everything is structured. That €1 takes you only so far. You can't negotiate. You can't go shop for a bargain. If you want to bargain, you have to go to Turkey. But you will not find it in Europe. The positive parity is simply too big.
Understandable. Clearly. Thank you for that one. It really was clear enough, and I hope that our listeners did understand what Mr. Steinman has said. But let's quickly go for a short break, and once we come back, we will be talking about the GDP per capita.